Welcome to Smart English Coach Podcast.
Let's improve your fluency together, one real conversation at a time.
Have you ever had the perfect English sentence in your head, but it came out 5 seconds too late? Someone asks you a simple question, how was your weekend? And your brain does this. English, your language, English again. Meanwhile, the other person is already waiting for your answer.
Ouch, that is painfully accurate.
And that's exactly why speaking English feels slow, stressful, and exhausting for so many learners. The good news? It's not because your English is bad. It's because your brain is using the wrong system.
Wait, so the problem isn't vocabulary?
Not usually. The real problem is translation. Most learners spend years translating every English word into their native language first. But fluent speakers don't do that. When they hear the word apple, they don't think of another word. They see an apple.
So you're saying the secret isn't learning more English, it's training your brain to connect English directly to meaning?
Exactly. And in this episode, I'll show you how to retrain your brain to think directly in English, stop translating in your head, and start speaking faster and more naturally.
That's something every English learner wants.
Then let's get started.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Why does this happen? Why do our brains default to translation?
Great place to start. So when you're a child learning your first language, your mother tongue, you're not translating. Nobody teaches a baby to translate. You hear dog, you see a dog. Your brain builds a direct connection between the sound and the concept. Simple, clean, fast.
Right, like the word is glued directly to the idea.
Exactly. Glued directly to the idea. I love that. But when we learn a second language as adults, or even as teenagers, we usually learn it through our first language. A teacher says, the English word for perro is dog. So now your brain has built an indirect connection. Dog, perro, the animal. One extra step.
And one extra step might not sound like much, but multiply that by every single word in a conversation.
And suddenly you're 5 seconds behind. You heard what the person said, you're translating it. You're formulating your response in your first language. You're translating that back into English, and by the time you're ready to speak, the conversation has moved on.
Oh, I remember that feeling so well. When I was first learning English seriously, I would be at a dinner with people speaking English, and I would have this perfect response ready in my head. But it took me so long to put it into English that the moment had already passed.
And then someone else says something completely different, and you're still stuck on the last sentence.
Exactly. It was so frustrating. I felt like I was always chasing the conversation instead of being in it.
Chasing the conversation. That's such a good phrase. And that's the core problem with translation. It keeps you one step outside the conversation. You're never fully in it. You're always processing from the outside.
So how do you break that habit? Because it's not like you can just decide, okay, brain, stop translating. It doesn't work that way.
No, it definitely doesn't. But there are real practical things you can do to rewire that connection. And the good news is your brain is incredibly flexible. Scientists call it neuroplasticity. Your brain can build new pathways at any age.
Neuroplasticity. That's the one where the brain can actually change and adapt, right?
Right. Your brain is not fixed. It's not like a computer with a set program. It's more like clay. It can be shaped. And every time you practice thinking in English, you're literally carving new neural pathways.
Okay, so that's encouraging. So it's not impossible.
It's absolutely not impossible. It just requires the right kind of practice. And that's what we're going to break down today.
All right, so the first technique, and this one is so simple that people often dismiss it, is what I call the label everything method.
Label everything. Okay, what does that mean?
So when you look at an object, any object, instead of thinking its name in your first language, you say it in English, out loud if you can, or in your head if you're somewhere public. You wake up in the morning, you see your pillow, pillow. You walk to the bathroom, bathroom. You turn on the tap, tap. You look in the mirror, mirror.
So basically you're narrating your own life in English.
Exactly. You become the narrator of your own life. And what this does is it starts building those direct connections. Pillow, the object. Not pillow, translation, the object. Just direct, immediate.
I actually did something like this when I was learning. I used to put sticky notes on everything in my apartment. My fridge had a sticky note that said fridge, my door said door, my window said window.
Perfect. That is literally the same idea. Visual labels. And it works because every time you see that object, your eyes read fridge and your brain connects the word directly to the thing. No translation needed.
And after a while, you just stop seeing the sticky note, but your brain already made the connection.
Right. The sticky note becomes unnecessary because the pathway is already built. The wire is already there.
That's a nice way to put it. So it's like wiring your brain for English?
Exactly, rewiring it. And this works not just for objects, but for actions too. When you're making coffee, you think, I'm pouring water. I'm turning on the machine. I'm waiting for the coffee to brew. You're thinking in English about what you're doing in real time.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just nouns, it's the whole experience.
Right, and this is where it starts to feel more natural, because real language isn't just a list of words, it's a flow. It's connected to experience, emotion, sensation. When your English becomes connected to your actual life, not to your first language, that's when you start to really think in English.
Okay, so the label everything technique is great for physical things around you. But what about your thoughts, like your inner dialogue? That voice inside your head that's constantly talking.
Oh, the inner monologue. This is huge. And honestly, this is where the real batter happens. Because that voice in your head, for most people, is always in their first language.
Always. Like I could be in an English conversation, and the moment there's a pause, my inner voice would switch back to my first language immediately.
Because it's comfortable, it's automatic. Your brain defaults to whatever is most familiar, most easy. But here's the challenge, and it is a challenge, I won't pretend it's easy. Start shifting your inner monologue into English.
Just start thinking in English?
Start small. You don't need to be perfect. Just start narrating your thoughts. You're walking down the street. You think, it's a bit cold today. I should have worn a jacket. That cafe looks nice. I wonder what time it closes. Simple thoughts, simple sentences, nothing complicated.
And it doesn't matter if the sentences are perfect?
No, absolutely not. In fact, the inner monologue is probably the most forgiving space there is because nobody can hear it. You can make mistakes freely. You can say something grammatically imperfect and your brain won't even notice because it's just thinking. It's not performing.
That's a really important point, because I think a lot of learners are so afraid of making mistakes that they freeze up. They don't want to speak until they're perfect. But you're saying practice in private first, practice inside your own head.
Exactly. Your inner monologue is your private practice space. No judgment, no audience, just you and the language. And the more you use English in that space, the more natural it becomes. The more it starts to feel like yours.
I remember the first time I caught myself thinking in English without trying. I was just worried about something, some everyday problem, and I realized my inner voice was going through it in English. And I just thought, oh, something shifted.
That moment, that's the moment. That's when you know the shift is actually happening. And it can sneak up on you. You're not waiting for it. It just happens one day.
It really does. And once it happens, it gets easier and easier.
Because the pathway is strong now. The brain has accepted English as a real thinking language, not just a performance language, not just something you switch on when you're around native speakers.
Okay, so we've talked about inner monologue and labeling your environment. What about input, like what you consume? Does that affect how your brain processes English?
Massively. In fact, I'd argue that the quality of your English input is one of the biggest factors in whether you start thinking in English or not.
Quality, not just quantity.
Right, not just quantity, because you can spend hours consuming English and still be translating every word. It depends on how you're doing it.
Okay, so what's the wrong way to consume English?
The wrong way, and I see this all the time, is consuming English with subtitles in your first language. So you're watching an English show, but you're reading the Arabic subtitles, or the French subtitles, or whatever your language is. And your brain just ignores the English audio and reads the subtitles.
Oh, I'm guilty of that. Honestly, for so long, I watched English shows with subtitles in my first language, and I thought I was learning English. But looking back, I was just watching TV.
Right. Your brain is lazy. In the best possible way. It's efficient. It takes the easiest path. And reading a subtitle in your own language is always going to be easier than processing spoken English. So it'll just do that.
So what should we do instead?
2 upgrades. First upgrade, switch to English subtitles. Now your brain has to process the English audio and the English text together. It starts building connections between how words sound and how they're spelled, between spoken English and written English.
And both inputs are in English, so there's no shortcut to your first language.
Exactly. And then the second upgrade, when you're ready, no subtitles at all. Just listening. Just your ears and the English. This is the hardest one, and you don't need to do it with everything, but even 10 minutes a day of pure listening, podcast, TV show, YouTube, without subtitles is incredibly powerful.
Because you have to figure out meaning from context. You can't rely on the text.
Exactly.
And that is exactly what you do in real life. In a real conversation, there are no subtitles. Nobody is going to hold up a sign that says what they just said. You have to process it in real time, from context, from tone, from the words themselves.
And the more you practice that, the faster your brain gets at it.
Right. Speed of processing is everything. And the only way to get faster is to practice under real conditions, which means no crutches, no translation subtitles, no pausing every 5 seconds to look up words.
Although sometimes looking up a word is necessary, right?
Of course, but there's a difference between looking something up intentionally because you really want to understand a specific word versus constantly interrupting your listening to translate every single word you don't know. The second one breaks your flow. Your brain loses the rhythm of the language.
So the goal is to understand as much as possible from context and only look things up when it's really blocking your understanding.
Perfectly put. And here's something important. You don't need to understand every word to follow a conversation. Native speakers don't understand every single word they hear either. Context fills in the gaps.
That's actually really comforting to hear.
Okay, I want to bring up something that I think is super important and doesn't get talked about enough. And that is thinking in chunks or phrases, not individual words.
Oh, yes. This is actually one of the most important shifts you can make because native speakers don't speak word by word. They speak in chunks, phrases, chunks of meaning.
Right, like you don't think, I am looking forward to this. You think, I'm looking forward to this. It's one unit.
One unit, exactly. In these units, linguists call them chunks or collocations. They're basically phrases that go together naturally. Make a decision, not do a decision. Take a break, not do a break. Pay attention, not give attention.
Those small differences are so tricky for learners. Like, why do you make a decision but take a break? There's no logical reason.
There isn't. And this is exactly why you can't think your way through English. You can't apply rules to everything. A lot of English is just how it goes. It's collocation. It's what sounds right. And the only way to know what sounds right is to have heard it enough times that it feels automatic.
So instead of learning individual words, learners should be learning whole phrases?
That's a huge part of it, yes. When you learn a new word, don't just learn the word. Learn the phrase it lives in. Learn run into a problem. Learn come up with an idea. Learn give someone a call. These are chunks of real language. And when you store them as units, you can retrieve them much faster in a real conversation.
Because instead of building the phrase from scratch every time, it's already ready to go.
Ready to go, preloaded, like a quick access file in your computer. You don't have to build it, you just call it up.
I want to ask about phrasal verbs here, because I know a lot of learners find them really challenging. Like give up, give in, give out, give away. They all have the word give, but they all mean completely different things.
Phrasal verbs are genuinely one of the most challenging aspects of English for non-native speakers, because the logic is often completely non-literal. Give up doesn't mean you're literally giving something up into the air. It means to stop trying, to quit, to surrender.
Or run out of. Like, I ran out of milk. You're not actually running.
Right, you're not sprinting through the kitchen chasing the milk carton.
That's a funny image.
But this is actually key. When you learn a phrasal verb, don't try to understand it literally. Just absorb it as a whole unit of meaning. Run out of equals no more of something. Full stop. Don't try to decode why run and out and of create that meaning. Just absorb the chunk.
So less analysis, more absorption.
That's a great way to put it. Less analysis, more absorption. Think of a child. A child doesn't analyze why went is the past tense of go. They just hear it 1,000 times and it sticks. We need to train ourselves to do the same thing with chunks and phrasal verbs.
Okay, let's talk about something practical. A lot of our listeners are in countries where English is not spoken around them. So how do you create that English environment when you're not in an English-speaking country?
This is such an important question because I think a lot of people use this as an excuse. Like, oh, I would improve if I lived in the UK or the US, but I don't. And honestly, that mindset is a trap.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times. If only I could move to an English-speaking country.
And yes, full immersion in a country where English is spoken is powerful. I won't deny that. But you don't need to be physically in England to create an English environment. You can build one wherever you are.
How?
Let's start with your phone. What language is your phone set to?
For most people, probably their first language.
Change it today, right now. Switch your phone to English. Your apps, your settings, your notifications, everything. This is a small change with a big impact because you are looking at your phone dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day.
Every time you see settings instead of the word in your language, your brain is processing English.
That's such a simple hack. I did that years ago and it genuinely helped.
Same with your computer, your social media, your streaming services. Set everything to English. Follow English accounts on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are. Read English comments, read English captions. Surround yourself with English text throughout your day.
What about audio? Because I know a lot of our listeners consume a lot of content while they're doing other things, cooking, driving, exercising.
Audio is gold, absolutely gold, because you can be doing something completely physical, going for a run, making dinner, folding laundry, and your ears are absorbing English. Podcasts are perfect for this. This podcast, for example.
Obviously. Obviously.
But also podcasts about topics you're genuinely interested in. Not just English learning podcasts, though those are great, but also podcasts about history, science, technology, sport, whatever excites you. Because when the content is interesting, you stop focusing on the language and just follow the story. And that's when real absorption happens.
That's such a good point. When you're not consciously studying, you're often absorbing more naturally.
Because you're not in study mode. Study mode can actually create a kind of mental resistance. You're hyper-focused on every word, every mistake. But when you're engaged with content you enjoy, your brain relaxes, it opens up, and language seeps in more naturally.
Like how you can watch a movie you love and remember whole lines of dialogue without even trying.
Exactly. Emotional engagement accelerates memory. If a line makes you laugh, if it surprises you, if it moves you, you'll remember it. So consume English content that genuinely moves you emotionally.
Hey, if you're finding this conversation useful, if it's giving you real practical ideas, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We put out content like this regularly to help you improve your English in a natural, enjoyable way. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, leave us a review. It really helps. Now, back to the conversation.
Okay, where were we?
We were talking about creating an English environment.
Right. Let's talk about one more thing in this section, and that's finding people to practice with. Because no matter how much you listen and absorb, speaking is a different skill, and you need to use it.
And for a lot of learners, that's the scary part.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking is vulnerable. You're putting your imperfect English out there for someone to hear, and the fear of judgment, the fear of making a mistake and someone laughing or not understanding can be paralyzing.
I remember feeling like I wanted to wait until my English was good enough before I started speaking, like I needed permission to speak.
And how did that work out?
It didn't, because the only way your English gets good enough to speak is by speaking. You can't wait your way to fluency.
You can't wait your way to fluency. That's going on a t-shirt. And the speaking practice doesn't have to be with a native speaker. It doesn't have to be a formal lesson with a teacher. It can be a language exchange partner, someone who speaks English and wants to learn your language. You help them, they help you.
There are apps for this now, right? Like Tandem, HelloTalk?
Plenty of them. And online communities, Discord servers, Reddit forums, Facebook groups, all dedicated to language learning and English practice. There are people all over the world who want to practice English and are looking for someone to talk with. You just have to put yourself out there.
And the key is consistency, right? Not just one conversation a week, but regular practice.
Consistency over intensity. That's the principle. 20 minutes every day will do more for you than 2 hours once a week. Because language is like a muscle. It needs regular use to stay strong and keep growing.
Okay, let's get really practical now. Let's give our listeners a kind of daily routine. Things they can actually do every single day to start thinking in English.
Love it. Let's do it. Okay, so here's a simple daily framework. Morning, midday, evening.
Go.
Morning, when you wake up, before you even get out of bed, spend 2 to 3 minutes thinking in English. Just stream of consciousness. What are you thinking about? What's the day going to look like? What do you need to do? Don't worry about grammar. Just let English thoughts flow. I'm tired. I don't want to get up. I have a meeting at 10. I should probably eat breakfast. I wonder if it's cold outside. Just think.
Simple. No pressure. Just thinking.
Just thinking. Then, during the morning, go back to the labeling technique. Whatever you're doing, cooking breakfast, getting dressed, commuting, narrate it in English in your head.
What about midday?
Midday, try to consume at least 15 to 20 minutes of English audio. Podcast, YouTube, audiobook, whatever you like. If you can, do it without subtitles or translations. And if you hear an expression or phrase you like, notice it. Don't necessarily stop to look it up. Just notice it. Your brain will start to remember things that catch your attention.
And if you want to note it down?
Great.
Keep a small notebook, physical or digital, and write down expressions that interest you. Not definitions, not translations, just the expression and maybe an example sentence. And look at it again before you sleep. That spaced repetition helps lock it in.
Spaced repetition. That's the technique where you review things at increasing intervals?
Exactly. You review it today, then tomorrow, then in 3 days, then a week later. And each time you review it, the memory gets stronger. There are apps built around this principle. Anki is a popular one. You can make digital flashcards and the app schedules your reviews automatically.
What about the evening?
Evening, reflection. Spend 5 minutes reviewing your day in English, in your head or in a journal if you like writing. Today I went to work. I had a difficult conversation with my colleague. I felt frustrated, but I handled it well. Tonight I'm going to relax and watch something. Just process your day in English. This is powerful because it connects the language to your actual emotional experience.
And then when you're going to sleep?
If you fall asleep to audio, which some people love, some people hate, try falling asleep to English. A podcast, an audiobook, a calming English conversation. Your brain keeps processing even as you drift off.
Does that actually work?
Honestly, the evidence is mixed. It's not like you'll wake up fluent, but there's some research suggesting that the brain can consolidate patterns during sleep. And at minimum, you're exposing yourself to the rhythm and melody of English, which matters more than people think.
The rhythm and melody. What do you mean by that?
Every language has its own music, its own rhythm, its own stress patterns, intonation, speed. English has a very particular music to it, and when you internalize that music, your own speech starts to sound more natural. You're not just getting the words right, you're getting the feel of the language right.
And that's what separates someone who sounds fluent from someone who sounds like they're reading from a textbook.
Exactly. Fluency isn't just accuracy, it's also naturalness, rhythm, music, and you absorb that by listening, not by studying.
Okay, I want to go back to speaking for a moment, because we talked about the inner monologue, but what about actually speaking out loud, even when you're alone?
This is my favorite technique, and I know it sounds strange. Talking to yourself out loud, people might think you've lost it, but it is incredibly effective.
What kind of speaking practice can you do alone?
So many things. 1, just talk about your day. Stand in front of a mirror and speak. Tell yourself what happened, how you felt, what you thought. The mirror is useful because you're also watching your mouth, your expressions, your body language, which all feed into communication.
Kind of like a video call with yourself.
Exactly, a video call with yourself. 2, describe things around you. Pick an object and describe it. My coffee mug is white. It has a small chip on the handle. I've had it for about 3 years. I got it from a little shop near my house. Just describe. You'd be surprised how much vocabulary this activates.
And it's low stakes because nobody can hear you.
3, pretend conversations. This one is underrated. Imagine a scenario, a job interview, a meeting with a friend, a phone call, and play both sides, or just your side. Practice saying things you might actually need to say in real life. Could I reschedule our meeting? I'm not sure I agree with that. Can you explain what you mean? Phrases you'll actually use.
That's almost like rehearsing life in English.
Exactly. And here's the thing. When the real situation comes, it's not the first time your mouth has said those words. Your tongue knows where to go. Your brain has the phrase ready because you rehearsed it.
That's actually smart. It's like athletes who visualize their performance before a competition.
Perfect analogy. Visualization plus rehearsal, mental and physical practice together. And 4, read out loud. Take any English text, an article, a short story, a news headline, and read it out loud, slowly. Pay attention to how words sound. Feel your mouth making the sounds of English.
And that also helps with pronunciation.
Massively, because pronunciation is a physical skill. Your mouth has to learn new positions, new movements. English sounds like the TH and think or this. Many learners don't have this sound in their first language. You have to train the muscles of your mouth to make it, and reading out loud gives you that physical practice.
I want to touch on something that I think is often overlooked, and that's the emotional side of language learning, because I think people sometimes treat it like a purely intellectual exercise. But language is emotional, right?
Oh, deeply emotional. This is actually one of the reasons why people often struggle to think in English in emotional situations, arguments, heartfelt conversations, moments of stress or joy, because emotion is hardwired to our first language.
Like when you stub your toe, you don't think, ouch, that really hurts. You immediately express it in your first language.
Exactly. The instinctive emotional expressions, the first thing that comes out under pressure, is almost always in your first language, because emotion and language are linked at a very deep level.
So how do you start linking English to emotion?
A few ways. First, and I mentioned this before, consume emotional content in English. Watch films, TV shows, hear music that moves you. When a character in an English film makes you cry, your brain is linking that emotion to the English words and phrases you heard in that moment. The memory becomes emotional, not just intellectual.
And emotional memories are so much stronger.
So much stronger. Second, try to experience things in English. If something funny happens, try to express your amusement in English, even just in your head. That's hilarious. I can't believe that just happened. If something annoys you, express it in English. That drives me crazy. I can't stand this. Connect your real daily emotions to English expressions.
So your emotional vocabulary grows alongside your intellectual vocabulary.
Exactly. And when those two vocabularies overlap, when you can express what you feel in English just as naturally as in your first language, that's when you're really thinking in English, not performing English, thinking in it.
That's a beautiful distinction. Performing versus thinking.
Performing is exhausting. You're on stage. You're conscious of everything. You're calculating every word. Thinking is natural. It's free. And that's the goal, to make English feel free.
Okay, let's talk about mindset, because I think there are some mental habits that really hold learners back. What are some of the biggest mindset mistakes you see?
The biggest one? Waiting to be perfect before you speak. We touched on this earlier, but it deserves more. Perfectionism is the enemy of fluency. Fluency and perfection are not the same thing. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. They hesitate, they restart sentences, they use the wrong word, they stumble, and nobody cares.
Right. Fluency means being able to communicate, not being grammatically flawless.
Exactly. And if your goal is to be grammatically perfect before you open your mouth, you will never open your mouth, because perfection doesn't exist in language. Give yourself permission to be imperfect in English, just as you are imperfect in your first language.
What's the second mindset mistake?
Comparing your English to native speakers. This is very common and very damaging. You watch a YouTube video with a fluent native speaker, and you think, my English sounds nothing like that. I'm terrible. But that's like a beginner pianist comparing themselves to a concert performer. Of course, there's a gap. But gap is not a reflection of your talent. It's a reflection of your experience.
And the gap closes with practice.
Always. The only way to close it is to keep going. And celebrate the smaller wins. Your English today is better than it was 6 months ago. That progress is real. That matters.
What about the mistake of learning vocabulary in isolation?
Yes, this is a big one. Learning lists of individual words, word, definition, next word, definition, is one of the least effective ways to improve. Because in real language, words live in context. They have company. They travel with other words. Run means nothing in isolation. You need to know if it's run a business, run out of time, run into trouble, or literally go for a run.
So always learn words in context?
Always. When you see a new word, read the full sentence it's in. Better yet, read the full paragraph. See how it's used, what it connects with, what the feeling around it is. Context is everything.
And what about the fear of making mistakes in front of others?
The fear of judgment. That's probably the single biggest obstacle for most English learners. And here's the honest truth. Most people are not judging your English as harshly as you think they are. The inner critic in your head is always louder and harsher than the actual reaction of the people around you.
That's so true. I used to think everyone was noticing every mistake I made, but really people are mostly focused on what you're saying, not how you're saying it.
Exactly. And when someone makes the effort to speak in a second language, most people, in my experience, find that admirable. Not amusing, not embarrassing, admirable. Because it's hard, and they know it.
Yeah, I think as learners, we forget to give ourselves credit for how hard we're working.
Give yourself credit. Acknowledge the effort. Learning a language as an adult is one of the most cognitively demanding things a human being can do. And you're doing it. That's remarkable.
Let's talk about when it clicks, because I know there's a moment for a lot of learners when something just shifts, when English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts feeling accessible, real, maybe even comfortable.
Yes, that moment is real, and it's different for everyone. For some people, it's a conversation where they realize they responded naturally without thinking. For others, it's watching a film and realizing they didn't need subtitles. For others, it's having a dream in English.
Oh, the dream thing. When I first had a dream in English, I actually woke up excited, like something happened, something changed.
Because it really did. A dream in English means your subconscious is using English. That's deep. That's real. That's your brain telling you, this language is part of me now.
How do you accelerate getting to that point?
Consistency, daily contact with English, even on bad days, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it, maintain that daily contact. Even 10 minutes, even 5. Keep the connection alive.
Like watering a plant.
Perfect metaphor. You can't water a plant once a week and expect it to flourish. You need regular, consistent nourishment. And the same is true for language. Daily contact, daily practice, daily exposure.
And the other thing is enjoyment. If you're not enjoying the content you're using to learn, it's hard to stay consistent.
So important. Find English content that you genuinely love, a show you're obsessed with, a podcast you can't wait to listen to, a YouTube channel that makes you laugh or think. Because when you love the content, you come back to it, and coming back is everything.
Okay, we want to do something interactive now. Because this podcast isn't just about us talking, it's about you practicing. So here are a few questions. Pause the video or the podcast, think about your answer in English, and then come back.
Question 1. Think about your morning routine. Can you describe it in English out loud or in your head? Not translating, just thinking in English. Give it a try.
Question 2. When was the last time you caught yourself thinking in English? Where were you? What were you thinking about?
And question 3. What is one topic you love, a hobby, a passion, a subject, that you could start exploring in English? A podcast, a YouTube channel, a book. Think about it, and maybe even try Googling it in English this week.
We'd love for you to share your answers in the comments. And if you write your comment in English, even imperfect English, that's already practice. That already counts.
All right, let's do a quick review of some of the key expressions and phrases we used today, because repetition is how things stick.
And we used a lot of great language today.
We said, think in English, not translate. Think directly.
Rewire your brain. Build new connections, new pathways.
Narrate your own life. Running commentary on what you're doing in English.
Absorb, don't analyze. Less decoding, more soaking it in.
Language lives in context. Don't learn words alone. Learn them with their friends, their collocations, their phrases, their sentences.
Fluency is not perfection. Communicating naturally matters more than getting every grammar rule right.
Consistency over intensity. 20 minutes every day beats 2 hours once a week.
You can't wait your way to fluency. You have to speak to get better at speaking.
And my personal favorite from today, performing versus thinking. The goal is to think in English, not perform it.
Beautiful collection of phrases today.
All right, let's bring this home. We've covered a lot today, from why we translate to how to stop, from labeling your environment to shifting your inner monologue, from immersive listening to speaking to yourself out loud, from the emotional side of language to the mindset shifts that unlock fluency.
And none of these things require you to live in an English-speaking country. None of them require you to spend a lot of money. They just require intention, consistency, and a little bit of courage.
A little bit of courage. Because it does take courage to put your imperfect English out into the world, to open your mouth and let someone hear you learning. But that courage is also the thing that makes you grow the fastest.
And to everyone listening, wherever you are in your English journey, you're already doing something right. You're here, you're listening, you're practicing. Keep going.
Keep going. And here's our question for the comments. What is the one thing you're going to try this week to start thinking in English? Maybe it's switching your phone language. Maybe it's committing to 10 minutes of English audio a day. Maybe it's starting to talk to yourself in English in the morning. Whatever it is, write it in the comments. Make it a commitment.
We read every comment. We love hearing where you are in your journey. And we really do believe in what you're doing.
English is not just a language. It's a door, and you're learning to open it. We'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time. Keep thinking in English.
Bye for now.
Bye.